So if you're thinking about moving to the Denver, Colorado area, maybe it's in Denver proper, or maybe you're looking at some of the more popular suburbs like Castle Rock, Lone Tree, Highlands Ranch, or Parker, or any of the other suburbs, this is definitely a video that you're going to want to watch. My wife and I grew up in Iowa, and after college we moved out to Denver, Colorado, and we lived all over the metro area, and we actually ended up moving away from Denver for many years, and we just found our way back not too long ago. So we're definitely bringing a different perspective about moving to Denver, Colorado, and in this video we're going to talk about both the pros and cons of living in Denver, Colorado from people that have actually moved here from out of state, moved away, and then came back. By the way, my name is Caraway. I'm a realtor here in the Denver metro area, and let's get to it. So we're gonna get into the pros right now about living in the Denver, Colorado area. Now, don't get me wrong, there's amazing things about living here, but there's also cons. So stick around toward the end of the video. We're gonna talk about a lot of the cons, but first, the pros. And the first pro that comes to mind is definitely the weather. Now, if you're like me, before we actually moved to Colorado, we just assumed that Colorado is going to be a cold and snowy place. And don't get me wrong, you do get cold weather and you do get snow, but that's a very small portion of the year. Colorado weather is honestly really incredible, and we're going to talk about kind of all the different months here. So let's first talk about winter. So winter in Colorado, it can definitely get cold and it can definitely snow. Like, you're not going to avoid that by moving to Denver, Colorado. However, it's a lot different than what I expected when I first moved to Colorado. I just assumed that it was going to be cold and snowy all winter long. However, that's just not the case. The winter in Colorado is actually pretty mild for the most part. Like, you're not dipping below 20 degrees all that often, but you do have those days where the temperatures really drop drastically and you're getting that really cold weather. The other thing is with snow. Like, yes, you're going to get some snowstorms, and there's certain areas around town that are going to get more snow than others, but when that snow does come, it's not like it's sticking around for the entire month like it does in the Midwest, where it snows and stays there all winter long. You might get a snowstorm where, you get 5 inches, 10 inches, but then a few days later, just because of the strength of the sun and the fact that temperatures don't really stay super low all winter long, the snow does end up melting away, so you're not having to just have snow all winter long. Something else to note about the winter is that even if it is, say 20 or 30 degrees, if the sun's out and you are out in the sun, then it feels super comfortable. You're not getting that really chilled down to the bone cold like you do in a lot of the Midwest or East Coast type states. It is actually pretty comfortable here in the winter. Springtime in Denver, Colorado, you start to get a little bit warmer temperatures. You start creeping into the 50 degree and 60 degree range. You will get some snowstorms here and there, and actually some of the bigger snowstorms tend to come in the springtime. But again, a few days later, all that's melted away and you're back up to 50 or 60 degree weather. Now, summer here in Colorado is one of my favorite months for sure. Just love being outside in the summer. It is hot. You're not seeing, on the thermometer, it's not getting up into the hundreds all the time, like a place like Dallas, Texas, for example, where I used to live. But you are, constantly in that anywhere between 80 to 90 degree range, sometimes creeping up above that. And when you're out in the sun, it does feel really hot, because the thing about Denver, Colorado is that sun is really strong. So when you're exposed to that sun, it's going to feel pretty hot out there. But if you're able to find shade, even if it's 80, 90 degrees, it's going to be really comfortable in the summer. So that's definitely a great time to be out and about. It's definitely the best time to be on the patio and enjoying the outside. And then my personal favorite season here in Colorado is fall. Fall is where you're starting to get into that 60 to 70 degree weather range. It's comfortable even when you're out in the sun. It's not going to be cold. It's not going to be too hot. It's just perfect weather in my opinion. Another pro to living in Denver, Colorado is the outdoor recreation and lifestyle. And to be honest, this is probably the biggest reason that we ended up moving back from Dallas, Texas to Denver, Colorado, specifically because of this. Because when you look at a place like Dallas, Texas, you get a great city. It's actually, as far as the city goes, you're probably a better city compared to Denver. But the thing that we could never get was the outdoor recreation. There's just no public land. It's all flat. You're not getting good views anywhere. It's just not the best place if you're looking to be outside and active all the time. Whereas Denver, Colorado is the exact opposite. It is the best place, probably one of the best places in the entire United States for an active lifestyle and just being outside. Obviously, a lot of people's minds go straight to the mountains. Like, obviously you have great, you have Rocky Mountain National Park, for example. You have tons of state forests and national forests that you can get into, tons of different hiking trails and all of that kind of stuff that you can get into in the mountains if you're into kayaking, mountain biking, fly fishing, whatever your sport of choice is. In the mountains, obviously you have unlimited opportunities. But the thing that we really value the most having young kids is actually having that access to being able to have an active lifestyle and getting outside in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. Down in Castle Rock, which is a suburb to the south of Denver, which is where we chose to call home, you have so many different opportunities for getting out into parks, into hiking trails. You can go out and you can fly fish. You can pretty much get out and do anything that you want to, that you would typically go to the mountains for, but within the suburbs, which is pretty special. And trust me, there are many more suburbs where you can still get that active lifestyle and that access to, beautiful bluffs and hiking trails and rivers and all that kind of stuff. Castle Rock's not the only one, but it is one of my favorites. Another pro to living in the Denver, Colorado area is the music scene. I was just talking to my wife how this has to be one of the best places in the United States for, having access to live music. Obviously, the most iconic venue here is going to be Red Rocks Amphitheater, which sees so many good and big names every single year. But then you have the big sports arenas like Mile High or Ball Arena or Coors Field. It's constantly bringing in huge names to do concerts and for everybody to enjoy. And then you also have smaller venues like Fiddler's Green down in the Denver Tech Center, or there's a new venue that just popped in Colorado Springs. So many different options just in this area. So many smaller venues like the Fillmore downtown, or the Bluebird. Just so many great venues and so many big names coming to Denver all the time. So if you're into live music, you like getting out and enjoying that, this is definitely one of the best places for you. Like I mentioned, having young kids right now, we're not obviously going to the big stadiums and seeing all the big names, but something we really do value is that a lot of these local towns here in the Denver suburbs have small amphitheaters that, maybe every Friday they're hosting concerts that, are in this little amphitheater. You bring your lawn chairs and some food and drinks and all that kind of stuff and just let the kids run around and enjoy live music, which that's just the stage of life that we're in. And we really like doing that kind of thing. Another pro to living in the Denver area is going to be the brewery scene. Now, if you're into craft beer like me, it's definitely one of the best places to do that. Down in Dallas, Texas, where we lived for a while, it was pretty dry. You'd see a brewery here and there, but there just was not a ton of options for breweries. But in Colorado, it seems like there's literally a brewery about on every street corner, so you have plenty of options. And just if you've never been around that before, just to be clear too, like, yes, craft beer is cool, but it's also about the environment of a lot of these breweries. The way that a lot of them have created the environment. It's created a space where adults can go hang out and there's things for kids to do or space for them to go play. It's just a cool place to meet up with friends or just go out and get away from the house for a little bit. Same goes with coffee shops. I'd throw coffee shops in this little section as well, in the sense that there's so many different coffee shops that have still created that environment for families to be able to enjoy and go hang out with friends. Now, another huge pro for us personally was the fact that you can get a ton of great, beautiful views in the suburbs. Something that we really took for granted the first time that we lived here in Denver was the beauty around us. But then we moved down to Dallas, Texas, where it's very flat and there's really no natural beauty. And when we actually came back to visit Denver, we were pretty blown away because we had forgotten how just beautiful this area was. And so, a lot of the suburbs around here, if you're thinking about like a Golden or a Castle Rock or a Castle Pines or, you name it, there's so many different ones. You're not just getting flat land. A lot of these neighborhoods are built into these beautiful bluffs, or maybe you see the Front Range off in the distance. There's also, a lot of different kinds of suburbs. If you're looking for more of an urban lifestyle, you're going to be able to find that kind of suburb closer to Denver. Or if you're looking for more rural, maybe you want a little bit more land, getting outside of the Denver metro area is going to give you a lot of access to those types of suburbs. And if you're just looking for something that makes you feel like you're in the mountains but you're not too far away from the city, there's definitely that available too. Another pro to Denver, Colorado is the sports culture. There are so many different options for sports around here, between the Denver Nuggets or the Denver Broncos, the Colorado Rockies, the Avalanche, the Colorado Rapids, and so many different other options for sports around here. There's always going to be opportunities for you to go and watch live sports no matter what season it is. So we're about to jump into the cons of living in Denver, Colorado. But first, if you're looking to make the move to Denver, Colorado, you just need a guide on your side. You want somebody to help represent you in that whole process of moving here that's been through it multiple times, then definitely reach out. I'd love to help you make the move here to Denver, Colorado. At least have the conversation to see if we can help you at all. But like I said, there are a lot of cons to living in Denver as well that we had to heavily weigh when we were trying to figure out if we wanted to actually move back to Denver or not. That first con and most obvious con is going to be the high cost of living, with specifically housing in Denver, Colorado. In a lot of these different suburbs, obviously it varies depending on which one you're talking about, but your median sales price is going to probably hover in that $600,000 to $700,000 range. So that is not a cheap median sales price. Obviously it goes a little lower than that, and it definitely climbs higher than that as well. So you definitely, if you're going to be looking to buy a house, you're going to have a decent budget to be able to afford a home out here, depending on what you're looking for. Now, obviously, there's always a place for every single budget to live. If you're going to be under that $600,000 range, you're definitely going to be looking at an older house, a smaller house, or potentially having to get further away from the city to be able to afford the house that you want. Another con is going to be the traffic. And obviously, a lot of the big cities in the US are going to have that issue. It's not just Denver alone. And having lived in the Dallas area, I can say Dallas is very much a terrible city for traffic as well. So coming from that to Denver, I actually think it's pretty comparable. I don't think it's any worse compared to a place like Dallas. But you're obviously going to run into rush hour traffic, before and after work. And the other thing that can be frustrating for a lot of people, because a lot of people do move to Denver for the outdoors, is the fact that you're going to have that traffic on the weekends when you're trying to get into the mountains. Traffic going on I-70 on like a Saturday morning, for example, is going to be pretty brutal. A lot of times, even if you're going from Denver to a place like, I don't know, like let's say Silverthorne, which you're getting into Summit County where a lot of the ski resorts are, on a morning, on a weekend in the winter, that could take you up to 4 hours sometimes, if not more. And so that can be frustrating for a lot of people. In fact, when we were thinking about moving away from Denver the first time, that was a huge consideration for us. Having young kids, we were like, are we actually going to sit in the car for 3.5, 4 hours to be able to get into the mountains to do something when we have a screaming baby in the back of the car? And the realistic answer was no. And so obviously we've had a little bit of change of heart now, and different perspective, but that was a huge frustration for us when we first decided to move away from Denver. The other thing is, if you rely on public transportation, you're going to have really limited options here in Denver. You do have a few light rail systems that go, from downtown into the suburbs. You've got a light rail system that goes into the airport, but you're just not going to have a lot of options for public transportation in Denver compared to a major city like Chicago, for example. And along the same topic, Denver International Airport, I have mixed feelings about it altogether, but one fact for sure is that it is located pretty far away from the city. So commute time to the airport can definitely be a factor for a lot of people when you're relocating here, if you're having to travel a lot. So that's something to keep in mind. If you are going to be in the airport a lot, you may not want to live on the south side of Denver because it's going to take you quite a bit of time to get up to the airport. But that's something you can obviously explore depending on what your comfortable commute time is. Another frustration for people living in Denver, Colorado is the weather extremes. What I mean by this is that, one day you might have beautiful 70-degree weather, and then the next day you might have a snowstorm. In fact, that literally just happened 2 days ago. It was like 75 degrees, and then the next day it was 30 degrees. We had about 8 inches of snow. It was super windy. But then we're looking, a day ahead, and it's going to get back up into like 50s and 60s and so on throughout the week. So you definitely have to be prepared for that temperate climate. It's just something that you have to get used to, that you might have that nice weather one day and then have not so nice weather the next. Another con that a lot of people express about Denver, Colorado is the mass gentrification and homeless problem. Just the reality of so many people moving into Denver and the surrounding areas. A lot of people have been priced out of their homes and their neighborhoods that they grew up with. So you're seeing these older neighborhoods turn over and home prices go way up, property taxes go way up, and people are forced to move away, and new people that have bigger budgets go in and take over those areas. And so that's a problem in a lot of people's minds, and so it is creating some issues here in Denver, Colorado. It has been for many years now. And along with that, the homeless problem has definitely continued to get worse and worse over the years. It's definitely present. It's definitely you can't necessarily avoid it. Even in the suburbs, you are experiencing that to some extent as well. But Denver, Colorado specifically, and Denver proper is where the biggest problem is going to be with that. And another con that a lot of people express is just the overcrowded nature of the Denver area. It's really hard to get away from people, ironically enough, around Denver, even if you do try to escape into the mountains. If you're within an hour's radius of Denver, Colorado, it's going to be really hard to get away from the crowds. Even if it's on a hiking trail or an open space, or maybe you're on the river somewhere, it's going to be really crowded unless you're going in an off time. So really, if you want some peace and quiet, you got to get beyond that hour barrier, and you got to be really strategic about finding a place where not a lot of people are going to be if you don't want to get caught up in all of the tourism and just overcrowded areas. Now, if you want to have a conversation, figure out if Denver, Colorado is right for you, and possibly explore what it would look like to work with me, then definitely reach out, shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email anytime. I'm here to help you make the move to Denver, Colorado. Until next time, I'll see you later.